Hello, 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 and good evening, everybody. Welcome to my Zen Den. Happy Friday night. I am so very happy that you could join me tonight. I am working on some masculine cards tonight. I want to show you something that is in the it's in the annual catalog, and I think it gets overlooked. I'm actually going to be using tonight the Kraft Note Cards. And note cards are something that get overlooked, I think, in the catalog a lot. They fold into a finished size of 3 by 5, 3.5 by 5. So they are mailable. And they're smaller. A regular card is 4.25 by 5.5. A note card is 3.5 by 5. So it's quite a bit smaller, but they do come with their own envelopes and things like that. In the catalog, there are basic white, and there are also the new Kraft color ones. The Kraft color ones come with a box. Like, for real, we all have troubles finding places to store our cards, right? So this box, I didn't even notice it whenever I ordered them. I ordered them in. I'm like, ooh, Kraft, a new color. Yeah, right? I'm all excited. And then they come and I'm like, what is that in there? There's a box. So, like, it folds into, and it fits your note cards and envelopes in there. So you have a place to store your finished products. And it's got a cover. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. So I'm also going to be using the Vintage Tools stamp set. So I'm going to flip the camera around and we're going to get stamping right away here. One moment, please. And of course, please bear with me while I do my thing. My thing, which is turning it and setting it and making it all right, which seems to kick my butt every time I do this, right? Okay, I'm almost there. There we go. Okay. Feels like it's tipping down. What is going on? Okay, there we go. I think I'm ready. I think I'm good. Okay, I'm done now. Okay, Vintage Tools. This is the stamp set that I'm going to be focusing on tonight. It's a red rubber stamp set, cling stamp set. Really, I mean, just a fun stamp set, especially for masculine cards. Some great sentiments. It's your day. Strong, solid, dependable. You're all that and more. You're plain awesome. And build in some time for yourself. I just think it's a very neat stamp set. It's really got a lot of detail in it, which is a lot of fun. So that's the stamp set I'm going to be using. I also just want to kind of show you again the note cards and envelopes. So they come 20 to a pack. And here, let's pull them up in the catalog too. The note cards are on page 137. So these are the Kraft note cards and envelopes. There's 20 in a set for $10.50, and they come with a box. So these are them. Very nice, sturdy cards. Very nice, beautiful Kraft envelopes. And then there are also note cards and envelopes that come in very vanilla and basic white. Those also come 20 cards, 20 envelopes, and those are $7 each. So a little less expensive than the Kraft, but the Kraft are a lot of fun. So let's get stamping. Got 2 cards for you tonight. The first one I'm going to do, nope, not that one. I'm going to do this one. So I've got a crumb cake ink pad and an evening evergreen. Where's my paper? There's my, do I have it in there? It's okay. Just making sure you can see it. My dimensions for everything that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to use one note card, one of the Kraft note cards. I've got 2 pieces of 3.5 by 5 very vanilla cardstock, and then I've got a piece of designer series paper. This is 1 by 5, and it's from the Texture Chick designer series paper. That designer series paper is really neat. It's got a lot of gold on it embedded. It's really like kind of abstract looking, but I liked this piece here. It's got some wood looking grains in it, and I just thought it looked very masculine. So there is that. I'm also going to be using stamps from Biggest Wish stamp set. So I'm going to be using my Stamparatus for that. So I'm going to move these things aside to make room for my Stamparatus. Right here. And this, got it all set up and ready to go for us. My placement, that is. I'm doing things just a little bit different. I'm actually going to be stamping upside down on my Stamparatus, and there's a reason for that. I don't like to use the top corner of the Stamparatus. I don't like to get too close, remember, to my hinges. So right here and right here, and that's where I'm going to be stamping. So the way I've got it placed is I'm using the other side of the paper so that I'm away from those hinges, so that I get a nice crisp image instead of being up here and possibly having a bad image. Also, just so you realize, we are using photopolymer. That means we are using the foam pad that comes in with the Stamparatus. So I've got my Stamparatus base, my foam pad, a piece of grid paper that goes in there, and then I'm going to put my cardstock in. And I'm going to hold it down with the magnets, and I'm just kind of moving those out of the way. Just like that. So I'm going to stamp birthday first, and I'm going to be using crumb cake. And I like to put a stamp case underneath my plate as I tip it back, just so that it doesn't bounce all over the place. Makes things just a little happier. So I'm going to stamp that straight down. And I love the Biggest Wish stamp set also. It's so fun because it's got such a different variety of fonts. It's got 2 different fonts, the same words. Thanks, birthday, happy, hello, and friend. So you can make a ton of combinations. So here I'm just going to be making happy birthday. Oops, I got a little bit of ink on my plate, but that's okay. So just press straight down and straight up, just like that. So now I have this piece right here, and it says happy birthday. And I'm just taking those off so I could set it aside easier and not make a mess. Okay, so now I am going to, line this up. I'm actually going to take this piece of Designer Series paper and I'm going to line it up. And that's what I did intentionally, is I kind of measured so that I'd have this 1 inch from the bottom here. So I'm going to attach that. We're going to close my ink pads. Because you know what I always say, nothing good happens when you have an open ink pad there. Okay, and I'll bring this back in so you can see the dimensions here. Okay, so let's attach my strip of Designer Series paper. Don't you find that masculine cards are just a little tougher to come up with? And I think we like to add all of the things. And sometimes, I feel at least, masculine cards are simple and they're not fussy. They can be fussy, but for the most part, they're not fussy. So, all right, I've got, while I've got this going, I've got some, let's see, what is this called? Faux suede trim. This is also in the big catalog, the big annual catalog. And I'm going to add a piece of that right here. A lot of times I'll wrap this around, but this is the same length as my card. And I don't like the bumps at the very ends. So I'm just going to put it right on the top. So I'm adding a bead, a small thin bead of adhesive right on my cardstock. Tombow glue, and then I'm lining this faux suede trim, which is just going to give it a little bit of more texture, right on there. If you don't have the faux suede trim, or if you don't have this ribbon, or you could use a 1/4 inch piece of paper, and that would do the same kind of thing. This is just going to be a little more texture, and I thought that that would be fun. So let's snip that off, just even with the paper. And I've got paper scissors, not fabric scissors. Let's see here. Okay. And then this is where the star of the card comes in. I'm just going to let that dry a little bit before I trim it off because it's kind of pulling, because my scissors are crafting scissors, not fabric scissors. I'm actually going to tear this. And I love the look of torn paper on a card. I think it looks just very masculine. What else can I say? So I think that looks so nice. So I'm going to fold my piece of Kraft cardstock here and burnish it. The Kraft cardstock seems to me to be just a little more, it's hard to get a good solid crisp fold on it. It likes to bump up. It's a really sturdy, I think it must be a heavier weight paper. So now I am going to put that on like that. And I'm going to put it up just a little bit so we have this craft showing down here too, so it comes through. So let's attach that down. Put some adhesive down, my seal. And I'm just lining it up with the edge. Just like that. Oh, so cute. But we're not done. I'm grabbing my fabric scissors. We're not messing around here. There we go. I like that better. So much better. I need to sharpen my paper scissors. Okay, so there is that. I'm going to next. So this piece is the exact same size. That's what we started out with, the exact same size as the card. So now I'm going to actually rip for the inside. Some tips on ripping that I have found over the course of time. The piece that you are keeping, so this piece, if you rip the other piece, so I'm right-handed, so if I rip the piece that's in my right hand up, it's going to give me this nice look here. If I were to rip it down, it's going to leave it a little, I don't know. It's going to, if you rip it up, you're going to get this like rougher edge here. Whereas if you tear it down, you're going to get like a less rougher edge. Does that make sense? I don't know. I know what I'm trying to say in my head. I don't know if I'm conveying it to you. So I'm going to rip the other side as well. And this will be for the inside of the card. Just like that. So now those are scraps. So I've got this tool here, which is a planer, if you did not know. I have a good friend of ours, he actually collects antique vintage wood planes. He's got a ton of them. So this, I'm not anticipating Jack watching this this podcast or this video. This is going to be Jack's birthday card in October. And he will love it because he just loves wood planes. So I'm going to stamp that down in the crumb cake, and that just isn't that pretty? It's just a nice, I just love the image. I love the way that it goes onto the paper. I think it's so cool. So then I'm going to take the stamp that says "You're Plain Awesome," and I'm going to put it right there, just straight down and straight up in my evening evergreen. So that's the inside of my card. Your sentiment doesn't always have to be in the center. It can be off a little bit. You can jazz it up a little bit. There are no rules on that. In case you thought there were, there are no rules on that. So I'm going to add some adhesive here. I'm just letting this dry a little bit. My darker colors just seem to be a little juicier, and they tend to be, I don't like to, every time, it seems like I think if they're dry, and they smear. So that's the inside of the card. Isn't that fun? I love that. I love how that turned out. I was just so happy with it. And so I thought on the outside, I'm going to do one more thing. I've got my rustic metallic adhesive dots, and these are so pretty. They're pretty. Even though they're for a man's card, I'm still going to say they're pretty. I've got one of the bigger ones, and I'm going to take two of the smaller ones, and just, I wanted to fill up this blank space, just add a little something to balance it out. Space them out evenly. There we go. All right, so that is card number 1. What do you think? I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I love it. I love that card. So let's move on to card number 2. I've got my, this looks like a lot of pieces, but it's not. I've got my deckled rectangles again. I've been really into the deckled rectangles. So easy for me to say. All right, so I've got one of the Kraft Note Cards. I've got one deckled envelope, so I've got the smaller one. I could pull them out here, I suppose. Maybe they're stuck in. My desk, my office is still a mess. We're still redoing windows. So I've got this size deckled rectangle, and then I'm going to, I've got one that's in cherry cobbler. So this is the one that's roughly 2 5/8 by 3 7/8. And then I've got one more deckled rectangle that is roughly 3 by roughly 4 1/4. This one is roughly 2 1/4 by roughly 3 1/2. If you don't have the deckled rectangles and you want to make this card, you can totally just make regular layers of paper. There's no right or wrong, correct, right? When we're making cards, it's all in what we love and all in what we create. So I'm going to fold and burnish that. And I've got, this is a really simple card too. I have got soft suede ink and I have cherry cobbler ink. So those are my colors that I'm going to be using. So I've got the stamp that says it's your day. So I'm going to stamp that in cherry cobbler on my smaller of the Very Vanilla. So straight down, straight up. And that looks really dark, but I promise it'll lighten up. And so then I'm going to put a piece of scratch paper underneath of it, because I'm going to take some tools and I am going to stamp some tools on there. So I've got my vintage hammer. And I'm just going to kind of put that in there like that. Look at the detail on that. Oh, so cool. I love these stamps. I've got my pliers. Let's see. Maybe like that. I don't want it to be too symmetrical. And now I've got these little tacks that I'm just going to put around in various spots here. So I'm basically making my own designer series paper, right? Isn't that cute? I love it. Okay, I'm gonna let that sit for just a minute because I do know my soft suede is juicy. Okay, so then I've got the stamp that says build in some time for yourself. This would be a perfect congratulation card. It would be a good birthday card. Whatever the note is that you write underneath or inside that's the card is going to be. So I've got build in some time for yourself. I stamped that in cherry cobbler and I put that on the bigger of the deckled rectangles. That's in Very Vanilla. And now I'm going to take these nails again, these little tacks, and I'm just going to go across the bottom and scatter some tacks, which you probably never really want scattered around your place, but I'm scattering them in at the bottom of my card. Okay, so that's the inside of my card. I'm just going to set those aside because I know, like I said, my soft suede is a juicy, juicy ink pad. Let's set that aside. So now I'm going to take, I have got the woven ribbon. I believe the woven ribbon is in the new mini catalog, the Christmas mini catalog. And I'm going to, this is one of my favorite ways to use a thicker ribbon so that it doesn't get bulky. So what I'm going to do is I've put 2 pieces of, on the front of my card, I've put 2 pieces of seal and I've just run it down part way. So just so it doesn't stick out when we put the seal doesn't stick out when we put our piece on the front. So I'm going to just make, I call it a Z pattern. And this is really simple. It looks really classy, but it's super simple. Nobody has to see your mess behind there, right? And this just lays so, so nice. So I'm going to take my fabric scissors again and just cut a little angle like that and do the same thing up on the top. just like that. Okay. So let's put these things together. Put a little seal on the back of my smaller vanilla rectangle. And I'm going to mat that right on top of the next size bigger of cherry cobbler. And then I'm going to take some dimensionals and add those on the back. And again, this is a fairly big piece. I kind of probably go overboard on my dimensionals. I just don't like it to sag. I just don't like it. So let's get rid of those backings, just like that. And now I'm going to put this on here. Isn't that classy? I'm not adding anything more to that. I think that that alone is just a fantastic greeting card for a gentleman in your life. So let's put the sentiment on the inside. Little adhesive. Just like that. Awesome. And I love, like I said, I love the deckled rectangle on the inside. The second to largest deckled rectangle must be 3.5 by 5, because it was too big. So these were the sizes that worked out wonderfully for that. Okay, so there are the dimensions for that card. So I will bring in my other one for the evening. Those are my two cards, and it's using again the Vintage Tools stamp set and the Kraft Note Cards and envelopes. And again, the envelopes are just beautiful, perfect size for these cards. So, and they are mailable. Ask me how I know, right? This is the minimum size that you can mail through the Postal Service. So these are mailable just for a regular 60-cent forever stamp. So perfect. So let me flip the camera around and I will say goodnight for the evening. Okay. There we go. All right, so I hope you enjoyed those. And I hope you realized that they were in there. I hope I showed you that they were in there, because I totally overlooked those note cards. But I tend to go in streaks using them where I don't think of them and then I use them a lot. And they're great for, especially if you're going to be making a lot, they're great for gift giving. So if you're going to give somebody a lot of cards as a gift, that is a great way to do it. So I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so very much for watching. If you are watching on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up. I would so very much appreciate it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask, and I will see you again next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.